Have you ever bumped into someone familiar, smiled, nodded, and then completely blanked on their name? You know the face. You remember the moment you met, but when it comes time to say their name out loud, it's gone. It happens to almost everyone, especially after the age of 65. And while most people brush it off with a laugh or an apology, many quietly wonder, is something wrong with my memory? You're not alone in asking that. And no, forgetting names doesn't always mean something serious is happening. But here's the surprising part. There are hidden reasons this happens more often with age, and most of them aren't what your doctor usually talks about. In this video, we're going to explore 5 lesser-known causes of why you may be forgetting names more often than you used to, even if your mind feels sharp in other areas. We're not here to create fear. We're here to bring understanding, because once you know what's behind these slips, you can take simple, healthy steps to strengthen your recall. And don't worry, this isn't about doing brain puzzles or memorizing flashcards. We'll talk about sleep, nutrition, medications, and even the quiet role of conversation itself. Some of these causes may surprise you. One of them has nothing to do with memory, and everything to do with the moment. You first hear a name, so stay with us. Because the brain is full of secrets, and the sooner you understand the little ones, the longer you can protect the big ones. Let's begin with the first hidden cause. Number 1. Poor sleep quality. Have you ever noticed that on the days you sleep poorly, your mind feels foggy? Words slip away more easily, and it's harder to focus? That's not just coincidence. It's your brain trying to function without the recovery time it desperately needs. When it comes to memory, especially name recall, one of the most important stages of sleep is REM sleep, the dream stage. This is when your brain organizes, files, and strengthens the memories you gathered throughout the day. And here's the key. Names are among the first things to get lost when REM sleep is disturbed. As we age, sleep patterns shift. You may fall asleep faster, but wake more often, or sleep lightly and rise too early. These disruptions, especially in REM cycles, can lead to something called memory consolidation failure, where the brain never properly stores names, faces, or small details. So you didn't forget the name because your memory is broken. You forgot it because your brain never had a chance to store it properly in the first place. This happens more often than people realize, and it's rarely mentioned during routine checkups. Poor sleep can be caused by many things after 65. Medication side effects, bladder issues, anxiety, chronic pain, or sleep apnea. And unless someone asks, these issues often go undiagnosed. Here's the hopeful part. Even small changes to your sleep habits can protect your memory. Try to keep a regular bedtime and wake-up schedule. Even on weekends, avoid screens or news. Late at night, they disrupt melatonin and increase stress. Make your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. Limit caffeine in the afternoon and heavy meals before bed. And if snoring, gasping, or waking often is common, ask your doctor about sleep apnea. Testing. Sometimes memory support starts not with your brain, but with your pillow. Because when your sleep improves, so does your mind's ability to lock in the details of your day, including the names and faces that make life feel connected. Number 2. Medication side effects. Often overlooked if you're like most people over 65, you're likely taking at least 1 or 2 medications and maybe more. And while each one has a purpose, very few people are warned about how certain prescriptions can quietly affect memory, especially short-term name recall. In fact, some of the most common medications in older adults are known to impact focus, recall, and verbal memory without feeling dramatic. Let's look at a few examples. Anticholinergic drugs, often used for allergies, bladder control, or motion sickness, can block a key brain chemical called acetylcholine, vital for memory. Sleep aids and anti-anxiety medications, even over-the-counter ones, can leave you feeling groggy the next day and interfere with memory storage. Blood pressure medications or statins may reduce blood flow to the brain in some people, especially if not properly balanced. Now here's what's tricky. You might not feel off. You may function normally, hold conversations, and remember birthdays. But when it comes to recalling a specific name in the moment, your brain draws a blank because the small memory circuits are slightly dulled. Most people don't connect the dots between their medication and these subtle memory slips. And, unfortunately, not all doctors bring it up unless you specifically ask. So what can you do? Start by making a simple list of all the medications and supplements you take, even the ones you don't take daily. Then schedule a medication review with your doctor or pharmacist and ask one specific question. Could any of these be affecting my memory? Sometimes there's a safer or more brain-friendly alternative, and sometimes it's not the drug itself, but the combination of multiple drugs that creates a fog. Never stop a medication without medical guidance. But do become your own advocate, because the more you understand what's going into your body, the better you'll understand what your brain is trying to tell you, and if your memory feels a little cloudier than usual, it might not be aging. It might just be something in your medicine cabinet. Number 3, lack of mental labeling or attention at first meeting. You meet someone new. They smile, say their name, shake your hand. You nod politely, and 2 minutes later, the name is already gone. What happened? Many people assume this is a memory issue, but in truth, it's often not a failure of memory at all. It's a failure of attention at the very beginning. Here's the surprising truth. You can't recall what your brain never properly registered in the first place. When you meet someone new, especially in a social or distracting environment, your brain is juggling multiple inputs. Faces, voices, background noise, your own thoughts. Unless you intentionally label the name in your mind, it often doesn't stick. This is especially true for names because they are abstract. A name like Linda or Tom doesn't create a vivid image in the brain unless you make one. Scientists call this encoding failure. The brain didn't file the name with enough focus, so later it has nothing to retrieve, and after 65, when mental multitasking slows slightly, this becomes even more common. You're not forgetting. You just never got the name locked in to begin with. But there's good news. You can train your brain to anchor names more effectively. Here are a few gentle tricks. Repeat the name right after hearing it. It's nice to meet you, Tom. Visualize something unique about the person and tie it to the name. Tom is tall, Linda is a lavender blouse. Use the name again in the conversation. So, Linda, how long have you lived here? If appropriate, ask a question. About the name, is that short for Thomas or Linda? That's a beautiful name. It might feel silly at first, but these micro habits help your brain build a connection to the name, not just hear it passively. And if you do forget, don't panic. Just kindly ask again. Most people are more understanding than we fear. Remember, forgetting names isn't always about memory loss. Sometimes it's simply about how well we were listening when the name first arrived. Number 4, vitamin B12 or omega-3 deficiency. Most people think of vitamins as energy boosters or immune supporters, but some nutrients play a much deeper role, especially in how your brain processes, stores, and retrieves information. And when it comes to name recall and mental clarity, 2 nutrients stand out: vitamin B12 and omega-3 fatty acids. Let's start with vitamin B12. This essential vitamin helps maintain the health of your brain and nervous system. It supports the production of neurotransmitters, those tiny messengers that carry information across your brain. Without enough B12, these messages slow down or get lost entirely. Low B12 levels are surprisingly common in adults over 60, often due to reduced absorption in the digestive system. You may not feel anything dramatic, just a creeping sense of fog, forgetfulness, or trouble finding the right word at the right time. Now let's talk about omega-3s, particularly DHA, a type of fat that makes up a large portion of the brain structure. It helps protect neurons, reduce inflammation, and support communication between brain cells. Deficiencies in omega-3s have been linked to slower thinking, mood imbalances, and yes, memory struggles, especially with recall tasks like remembering names. Many seniors don't realize that these nutrients aren't always easy to get through diet alone. If you've reduced your intake of red meat, fish, or fortified grains, you could be at risk. So what can you do? Ask your doctor for a simple blood test to check B12 levels. Consider a gentle B12 supplement, especially if you're vegetarian, taking acid reducers, or have digestive issues. Add omega-3 rich foods like salmon, walnuts, chia seeds, or consider a fish oil supplement approved by your doctor. Stay hydrated. Nutrients work better when the body is well hydrated. Remember, the brain is an organ, and like every organ, it runs on fuel. If it's low on what it needs, it won't perform as well. So if names have been slipping away more often, and nothing else seems to explain it, don't just assume it's aging. Sometimes it's simply a matter of giving your brain the nutrients it quietly needs to function well. Number 5. Reduced social interaction and verbal practice. You may not notice it at first. A few fewer phone calls, a skipped lunch here and there, a quiet morning where no one speaks your name and you don't say anyone else's. But over time, that slow drift away from regular conversation can begin to affect something subtle, your ability to find and recall names. You see, memory isn't just about storing information, it's also about using it. And like a muscle, if you don't use your verbal memory regularly, it begins to soften. This doesn't mean you're losing your intellect, it simply means your brain isn't getting the practice it once did. The back and forth rhythm of casual talk, the recalling of names during introductions, or even the simple act of storytelling. After 65, many people experience a natural reduction in social activity. Retirement shifts routines, friends move or pass away, energy levels change, and without meaning to, many older adults find themselves speaking less, not just publicly, but even at home. You might go hours without saying someone's name, or days without engaging in a spontaneous conversation. Over time, your brain stops prioritizing those recall pathways. It doesn't forget the name entirely, but it loses quick access to it. What's especially tricky about this cause is how invisible it is. You may feel mentally sharp in most areas. You can do crosswords, balance a checkbook, even recall facts from years ago. But when it comes to saying a name in the moment, your brain hesitates not because it's broken, but because it's out of practice. The act of speaking, especially socially, lights up several regions of the brain. It keeps language fluid, strengthens connections, and creates emotional context that makes names more memorable. And the less we speak, the less the brain rehearses that process. You don't need to become extroverted, but staying verbally active is one of the most underestimated tools for memory health. A simple phone call, a chat with a neighbor, or even reading aloud can reignite those parts of your mind that help you recall names with ease. If you live alone, consider joining a community group, a faith circle, or a book club. If that's not possible, try narrating your day aloud, singing, or practicing conversations in your head. It's not about performance. It's about keeping your brain fluent in the language of human connection, because the truth is, memory thrives on meaning, and names are deeply tied to relationships. When you stay engaged, even gently, your brain stays ready. It remembers what matters. And it remembers who matters too. If you've ever paused mid-sentence knowing a name is right there on the tip of your tongue, but still couldn't find it, you're in good company. These little slips can feel frustrating, even a bit embarrassing, but they're more common than most people realize, and they don't mean your mind is failing, just that it may need a bit of extra care. If you've experienced this, I invite you to gently share by typing "I've felt this too" in the comments. It helps others feel less alone, and that quiet connection is powerful. And if you find this kind of calm, thoughtful guidance helpful, I warmly welcome you to subscribe to Gentle Wisdom and tap the bell icon so you won't miss our next gentle conversation. You're part of a community here, and your presence matters more than you know. Let's take a soft moment to reflect on what we've learned. Forgetting names isn't always a sign of something serious, but it is something worth noticing. Because your brain is not failing. It may simply be asking for more support than it used to. We began with the role of sleep, especially REM, and how your brain needs deep rest to properly file away names and faces from the day before. Then we explored how medications, even common ones, can quietly affect memory, especially short-term recall. We learned that forgetting names often isn't forgetting at all. It's a result of not paying close attention at the moment of meeting, something that becomes more common with age. Then we touched on how nutritional gaps like low B12 or omega-3s can gently drain your cognitive clarity. And finally, we talked about how less social interaction and verbal practice can leave the brain rusty, not broken, just out of routine. Each of these causes is manageable. Each of them is gentle. And each one, once understood, gives you a chance to act with compassion, not fear. Your brain isn't giving up. It's simply evolving. And when you support it with rest, attention, nourishment, and connection, it's still capable of remembering far more than you think. There's something deeply human about forgetting a name. It reminds us that the mind, as sharp and vast as it may be, still needs care, still needs rest, still needs the quiet rhythms of connection and attention to thrive. If you've been worried about forgetting names more often lately, I hope this gave you something more valuable than just answers. I hope it gave you a little peace. Because memory isn't just a test of intelligence. It's a dance between the body, the mind, and the way we live our lives. When we sleep deeply at this, when we nourish our brains, when we slow down and truly listen in conversations, we're not just remembering better, we're honoring ourselves. So, if one of today's hidden causes surprised you, or made you think of someone you care about, I'd love for you to share that in the comments below. You never know who your story might comfort. And if you find peace and clarity in these kinds of gentle conversations, I invite you, softly, to subscribe to Gentle Wisdom and tap the bell icon so we can keep learning together. You deserve to feel heard, understood, and supported, not just as you age, but as you grow, because memory loss may visit us from time to time, but wisdom, that never fades. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next video.